Greetings ladies and gentlemen. This is the novelist, your host for today. Back with today's fanfiction. Today's series is the fourth part of What If Deku Was Experimented On by a Twisted Man. Before we start, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Returning to the dorms, the students of Wano were all talking about the ensuing cook-off that most of them were very excited for. Remember guys? Tageru said as he stepped off of the main path towards one of the gyms. The eating part is done after I knock these two around. Tetsu and Ijiro both grinned as they joined Tageru on his path. This is gonna be fun as hell, the silver-haired teen stated. Iida, can you make sure they don't break each other? Momo looked at her co-leader. That would be wise. The engine user nodded as he followed the three teens. So what is everyone making? Denki asked the three students who were to compete. I don't know yet. I'm making yakitori, Kusuke answered. I figured everyone makes one dish and then all of the combined counts as our dinner tonight. I'm making tempura, Sayu added with a smile. I'm already hungry, Denki responded. You're always hungry, Hiryu pointed out. It all sounds so good, Pony said happily. Everyone filtered into their own conversations, and Shoko took that as an opportunity to get Izuku's attention, being glad he was near the back of the group with her. Hi Todoroki, Izuku said as he turned to her. His face still had his blood on it, dried up at this point. Can we talk in private? The dual-haired girl asked. The clear-blooded teen nodded. Yes. Kiyotaka behind them raised an eyebrow. Those two didn't really interact much to his knowledge, except for the battle trials. What did the girl want with his target? The two teens had taken to the roof, a bit dramatic really, but it was somewhere where they wouldn't be bothered as easily, and Shoko didn't want them to be bothered. She really wanted to know how Izuku could live with those quirks, and if it in any way could help her with her own situation. Izuku had sat on the edge of the building since he thought they might be up there for a minute, and he kind of liked the view, especially with the sun setting and making the sky look like different shades of orange and red. Shoko decided to sit next to him. What is it, Todoroki? How do you do it? She asked the question she had been meaning to ask him. Do what? He looked at her confused. Use your quirks. How are you able to stomach using them after everything that happened? She was afraid that he would have one of his panic attacks or get mad at her for even bringing up his dark past. Izuku looked at her. He felt that something was hidden about why she was asking, like she wasn't just curious about it for curiosity's sake. She looked like she needed to hear this for her own problem, which was something Izuku already made a promise to himself to help with however he could. I don't like it sometimes, the teen admitted. Sometimes I get flashes of him and his claws anytime I make a bone. Shoko frowned at that. I'm constantly afraid that I will turn into the weapon he wanted me to be. How do you move past it? I try to not use it like him. He had his bones only make claw fingers. I promise myself to never do that. Izuku felt something off while they were talking, like someone was listening. He didn't care at the moment to go investigate because Shoko was more important. Instead he just spoke quieter. I use them to spite him. And spite? He wanted me to be a weapon of what he thought the world should be. I use all of the quirks at first to tear down his work when I fought at the compound. I came here to train to be a hero and prevent people from being used like me, using the quirks he forced me to have. It helps that I separate myself from him like that. Shoko nodded. So separating how it is used is good. It helps me. The clear-blooded teen nodded. Having mom and dad's quirks help because I know they were good people. I'm afraid of using my left side, Shoko admitted. Izuku, who was on her left side, turned to look at her again. He wondered why her left side was bad to her. It's my father's side. The white and green-haired teen took a second to think it through. The name Todoroki sounded familiar, from a hero on the news he saw Umi say was a dick to work with. Your father is Endeavor. The girl nodded. Yes. He isn't a good father. She seemed hesitant to speak now. You can tell me, Izuku said softly. But it seems so wrong to complain when I know what you went through. I'm still here to listen, Izuku stated. He felt that odd presence of someone eavesdropping leave. He was definitely going to mention it to All-Mighter Shota. One person's pain doesn't discredit someone else's. He gave her a small smile. I can listen. I want to listen. Shoko gave Izuku a small smile in return. Okay. Alright guys, let's do this. Tageru grinned as the two other teens stood across from him. Nothing too lethal guys, Tenyu reminded them. Make dull blades if you can kamakiri. I can. It's actually easier to make dull blades over sharp ones anyways. We'll try to not head anywhere unwanted. Tetsu let his steel cover him. Don't go easy turds. Tageru got into a ready stance. Kind of weird to call us turds. Ijiro grinned despite the weird name. Alright go. Tenyu announced the start. Tetsu and Tageru rushed separate sides of their blade's classmate. They both went for a side hook to Tageru's fave, and the insect-like hit made dull blades shoot out of his skin to intercept the blades, and he engaged Tetsu first, being more used to his fighting, despite the two opponents of his having similar fighting styles. His fast reflexes managed to keep him from taking most of the hits the two threw at him, his quick blades acting as an excellent defense and counter for other attacks. Good shit, man. Ijiro grinned as a full blade was used on Tageru's leg to trip him. He has holes. Tetsu said as he raised his knee and made it impact Tageru's elbow, just enough to jar the insect-like teen. Ijiro used the opening to take out Tageru's knee and send him to his back. The blade's teen, however, reacted with practiced ease, and made a blade from his back that he used to pivot himself for a backflip to get to his feet. Ooh, that was nice. The redhead laughed as he looked at Tageru. Taking lessons from Midoriya's book. Improvising a little, but yeah. Tageru grinned as he rushed the two again. Hey, where's Midori? Mina said as two of the three kids had begun to cook food. He went upstairs earlier. Hiryu said while sitting upside down on a couch. He tossed a ball to Hanta. He might just be getting lessons from Jiro and lost track of time. Denki offered as he caught the ball the tape user tossed to him. I'm right here, Kyoka said from a table. He went upstairs with Todoroki. What? Mina whipped around to face the purple-haired girl. You're saying this now? Why does that matter? Ichako raised an eyebrow at the pink girl. Love expert senses are tingling. Mina shouted. Going up a staircase doesn't mean anything. Katsuki commented as he turned the oven top on. Disbeliever. Mina pointed an accusing finger at the blonde. Someone not love crazy see we're there then. Hiryu shrugged. Katsuki's phone went off. He read the message he got, which was a small one from Izuku. Don't bother him. What was it? Something came up, so he isn't participating in the contest anymore. Katsuki was wondering what it was but continued with his cooking. Love senses are tingling. Shut up with that. Kyoka scowled. You and Tsunatori seem way too invested in his love life. You're just mad you aren't part of it. Mina stuck her tongue out at the girl. Or I think that there are better things to do than focus on his love life. Says the girl who is going to teach him how to play bass. Pony narrowed her eyes. I think you just want us to not make any competition for you. I don't have any feelings for Midoriya like you two keep assuming. The earphone user stated. Would it distract you if I said I have a crush on someone? Hiryu offered as he tossed the ball again. Tell me who. Mina had moved across the room really fast to stand over the Chinese teen. Well, damn, that was fast. Hanta laughed. She teleported. Mashiro commented. It is my job as the love expert to treat all cases, even minor, with the utmost seriousness and care. The pink girl declared. Someone revoke her license. Katsuki said as he handed Sayo a cup. I'll revoke you. Mina pointed a finger at him. What does it even mean? The blonde asked with confusion. She'll take away your existence privileges. Hanta laughed. Don't think I won't. Mina went with what the tape user said. Izuku had done exactly what he said. He sat and listened while Shoko, for the first time ever, talked about her problems. He had learned how Shoko's father, Enji Todoroki, had treated her harshly from the second she was born. He learned how the man had pushed her hard to take his goal of exceeding all might, and would abuse her on the way to push her harder and harder. How Shoko's mother was pushed to insanity by the abuse the man gave her and Shoko, which made Shoko's mother lash out uncontrollably at the girl, upon seeing the left side of her which resembled her father. That the burn on Shoko's face was actually caused by her mother in that moment, and that it was a frost burn. How Shoko had 3 older siblings she had never gotten to interact with at all because Enji had seen them failures, and forbade them from interacting with Shoko when she was born, as he called it, gifted. She could control ice like her mother from her right side and fire from her left. How Shoko had intense hate for her father after all the torment he put her through, and it made her hate her left side and her fire. How spiteful she had become to want to prove him wrong and become string with only her ice, just to shove it in her father's face, when she could become the best without him or his power at all. I found out my oldest brother died. Shoko said quietly. Her eyes and face had become tear-stained after opening up about her problems, but she wasn't worried about it at all. The sympathy Izuku had been giving helped a lot. They said it was an accident, but they never found his body. I was there when my father found out. She grit her teeth. He didn't even shed a single tear. How do you hear about your first child dying and not give any reaction? Izuku put his hand softly on her shoulder. Shoko wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, I'm just unloading this all on you. You have your own problems. Just because my life was bad doesn't mean yours doesn't matter as much. Izuku said. I honestly think an abusive parent is worse than what happened to me. I was only able to live through what I did because my parents' final moments kept pushing me on. Izuku started to tear up also when he thought about the compound. If my parents were like your father, I wouldn't have been able to last half as long as I did. Shoko looked at him with a scowl. You had it way worse than me. She couldn't believe he could just say his torture wasn't as bad as her father. We shouldn't compare pain like that. Izuku shook his head. That doesn't help it. The dual court girl sighed. I'm sorry. I never opened up before. I never did. Izuku spoke. I was always afraid that I would get treated worse if I spoke about it. Everyone found my files and talked about them and what I went through, but I never got to just talk about it. Izuku paused. I feel bad because I can barely open up to Rumi. I'm afraid if I open up more she will find out how much I hit and blame herself. Shoko heard the hitch in his voice. Just thinking about hurting Rumi in any way clearly wasn't something Izuku didn't like to even consider. I'm sure she would understand. From what I could gather, Rumi sounds like a good person. She's the best. The clear-blooded teen nodded. I hate that I can't just talk more about it. It's just bottled up so much. You are here for me to open up. I can be here for you. Shoko tried to give that same helpful smile he gave her earlier. It's bad, the teen said. Just thinking about it all makes me feel like I'm there again. Me talking through what happened helped. The girl reassured him. She was sure that whatever happened was bad and it might bother her to hear, but he obviously just needed someone to just say it to. You might not look at me the same way anymore. The teen was afraid. I want to help. Shoko stated. She tried to smile again. Izuku had his own smile at those words. He nodded before he began to speak. Kiyotaka opened his phone and dialed the untraceable number again. His master picked up the phone. Akimitsu, I assume you have news. The man spoke. You needed a person to corrupt also, right? The teen asked. I found someone who might be that one, 2 people actually. And one day. Who is this possibility? Shoko Todoroki. Kiyotaka answered. She seems to have an issue of her own, and got Midoriya to actually talk about his own problems. The daughter of the number 2 hero would definitely be a blow to belief in heroes if she turned. Who is this other person? Katsuki Bakugo. He is hot-headed when it comes to any threat of any size to Midoriya. The amount of trust they already display with each other is big enough that if he falls or Midoriya falls, the other would definitely follow. The class is getting closer to Midoriya by the day as well. All for One was quiet on the other line as he thought. This will only make my successor's plan that much more effective when he strikes. The stronger his toes are will only make this that much more of a foe. Are there any other developments? He has head pains that disable his quirks. It caused All Might to panic. All for One laughed. That fool has another connection I can destroy. This is wonderful. Keep us updated on more developments. Yes, master. The teen nodded and heard the man cut the line. I really want to know what Midoriya is doing now, to be honest. Here you caught the ball when Ijiro, who had returned along with Tetsu and Tageru, tossed it to him. Tageru had lost against his 2 classmates because they were able to overwhelm him after a few minutes, but it was a close call. If we need to know, he will tell us. Tageru said as he looked in a magazine about insects. The guy doesn't seem to hide much. Someone who does hide shit is Akimitsu. Tetsu stated. I don't like him. To be fair, I don't think he likes you. Denki caught the ball. Beauty doesn't like any of us. He is kin to just here. Hanta stated. Why try to be in the hero course when you can't be a friendly face to classmates? Hiryu asked. Especially some of us. Mina said. Some of us are pretty fun to be around. Like the Wonder Twins. Tageru pointed to Tetsu and Ijiro. And Tweedledee and Tweedledum. He pointed at Hanta and Denki. I want to be Tweedledee. Hanta chuckled. Why am I Tweedledum? The electric blonde asked. Doesn't your electricity short-circuit your brain if you use it too much and make you momentarily stupid? Pony asked. Momentarily implies he isn't always stupid. Kyoka commented. That's bullying, ma'am, and I will cry. Denki pointed at the girl. I am not above it. Do you at least know where Midoriya is, Bakugo? Tenya asked. He just wanted to make sure the teen was close enough to them if he did need them. He didn't say. Katsuki answered. He just said he would be busy for a while. That means it's just me and Sue for the cook-off. If it's Yakitori versus Tempura, I gotta go with Tempura. Pony said from her seat. No picking sides before you eat. Katsuki stated. Just upset she chose the other dish. Mina said. No. Just remain unbiased before a decision like this. Katsuki replied. I like Yakitori. Sayu said as she watched her food. Should we wait for the other 3 before we do this? Tageru asked as he closed his magazine. Akimitsu doesn't really try to be part of the class, so forget him. Tetsu said. Midoriya is busy. I dunno about Todoroki. She went upstairs a while ago. Denki threw the ball to Hiryu, who wasn't paying attention and got nailed in the face, but caught the ball still. I can check if she is interested, Momo said as she went up the stairs. Todoroki's cute, Denki said. Think she would be interested in me? Nah. Hanta shook his head. You're just gonna head on any girl who breathes, aren't you? Tageru asked. Hey, I have poor aim, so if I wanna shoot my shot and have it hit, I gotta shoot a lot. Mina whacked Denki on the nose with Tageru's magazine. No touching Todoroki. I am gonna set her up with Midori. You're really gonna push that, aren't you? Achako asked. I saw chemistry, the pink girl stated firmly. The new two people fighting in a practice class makes for chemistry. Kasuki washed his hands. You disbelieve a lot, which is hypercritical when you have been showing chemistry this whole time. With who? The blonde gave her a look. You know exactly what I am talking about, and I will get to that whole situation after Midori and Todoroki. PFFT okay. Kasuki rolled his eyes as he started to grab plates for the food, Sayu helping him. Kasuki legitimately didn't know what chemistry the acidic girl was talking about, which was a testament to how dense he was in those types of matters. Shoko was shocked as an understatement. She knew she would hear some disturbing things about what happened to the teen next to her, but some of it was just she was even more amazed by Izuku now with his ability to just carry on as he did. The most disturbing part she had heard was when he had first gained the 3 quirks that made his Shikatsu Myaku, and how it made itself known. That incident alone was responsible for a lot of his scars. Instead of her fear or disgust of Izuku growing like the boy feared, she only gained respect for him. Izuku stopped after a bit, not able to say anything else at the moment. He turned to Shoko. You aren't disgusted by my past. I'm disgusted by that man, but not you. The girl stated. He was a jerk. Your dad is a jerk, Izuku replied. Shoko snorted. He is. Do you ever want to see your mom again? Izuku asked after a minute of quiet. I don't know. The girl admitted. She gave me this ugly scar, but it was because of my father. I don't think the scar is ugly, the clear-blooded teen said. What? She gave Izuku a look. Did he really not find her large frostburn ugly? She was always self-conscious about it, so him saying something exactly the opposite of what she believed was off-putting. I think it shows that you are strong, the boy replied. It also makes your eyes stand out more. My eye? Why would he bring up her eye? Your eyes are kind of pretty, Izuku admitted, his face heating up. Shoko's face turned red as well. Did he really think that? Your eyes are appealing also. It was Izuku's turn to turn as red as Shoko's hair. I couldn't find Todoroki, Momo said as she came down the stairs to the commons. She wasn't in her room. Tanya raised an eyebrow. As she didn't respond to me knocking, the female class leader said as she sat down next to Tanya. Maybe they're both somewhere together, Hiryu suggested, not doing whatever Mina is about to say. Say what now? The pink girl looked up from the insect magazine she had borrowed from Tageru, who had a lot more to read anyways. She wasn't even listening. Kyoka laughed. To what? The acidic girl asked. No one say anything, Denki said. I'll fight you, Mina threatened. No fighting, Tanya and Momo said at the exact same time. You guys keep getting mom and dad mad at us, Hanta said. When did we become mom and dad? Tanya asked. You guys are the two most responsible here, Denki shrugged. Don't act like all of us are immature, okay? Hiryu said. Komori, Asui, Uraka, Ajiro and Tokoyami don't cause any issues, so they are immature. I feel like you left out a few people, Katsuki stated. You aren't getting in that group that easy. Denki pointed at Katsuki. You're one of us. I know. I mean people like Rin, Izuku and Todoroki. Why are you leaving quite a few of us out? Hanta asked. Okay. I'll go down the list then. He pointed at Denki. Perv and idiot. He pointed at Kyoka. Assaults the pervy idiot. He pointed at Hanta. Idiot. He then pointed at Mina and Pony. Love experts. He then pointed at himself, Tageru and Tetsu. Aggressive as all hell. He then pointed at Ajiro. Part of the aggressive team even though he doesn't initiate. And Akamitsu I don't care about. Fair assessment. Hanta nodded. Although idiot might be a bit nice. That's bad for you do know that right? Mina gave the tape user a look. Hey, I got the title of class clown. I'ma roll with it. Wait, so being love experts makes us immature? Mina and Pony both looked offended. Well, you are being a bit weird about it. Hiryu shrugged. Wait, so I'm class perv? Denki asked. Did you call Midoriya's caretaker hot when he first mentioned her being Mirko? Tageru pointed out. Ah, that's fair. Plus you did say that thing about shooting your shit with as many girls as you could. Hiryu added. That's more of a not being able to get a date kind thing. The electric blonde pointed out. I find it funny that his three are all labeled aggressive, and no one is arguing that. Tetsu chuckled. Well, you three do act aggressive. Mashura nodded. Especially when the other students mess with Midori like it all. Fuck them. Takeru proved their point. Those people are dumbasses. He's a good guy. I just want to know where he is right now. Pony frowned. After a while, Shoko and Izuku began to talk about lighter topics. They had gotten to dreams and Shoko stopped for a second. I don't know what my goal is anymore, the girl said. Up until now it was use my ice to spite my father, but after this all it just seems petty. What do you really want? Izuku asked. I was always inspired by All Might. He saves everyone with a smile no matter how bad everything is, the girl answered. Like my dad. Izuku nodded. All Might was well known. Haki was the most known and beloved hero for his famous smile. I guess I would like to be like that. Someone who can make others feel safe. That's a good goal. The clear-blooded teen nodded. Mine is to prevent others from going through what I did. That is also a good path. They were both quiet for a bit before Shoko broke the silence. I want to see my mom and siblings. Do you know where they are? Izuku asked. No. She gained a sad look. I'm sure the teachers might. The green and white-haired boy offered. All might know because of his connections, or Yue might because of connections. I'm worried though, Shoko said. What if they only see my father's side? It's not his, Izuku said. You don't have your mother's side or your father's. It's all you. Shoko liked that thought. It's also not his bones you have. Those are all you, Shoko said. Izuku let those words sink in, smiling as they did. Well, I think it is safe to say I like tempura more than yakitori now, Kyoka said as the class ate their food. Yay, it's good alright. It's good, but man Bakugo, you know your seasoning. Ijiro liked the yakitori more. The chicken just spoke to him. If it was me, that seasoning would be like 10 times spicier, Katsuki stated. Spiciness is good. That helps your explosions, doesn't it? Momo asked. Yay, makes me sweat more and makes my glands expand. Better sweat glands means better explosions. The blonde nodded. I need iron for my quirk, Tetsu stated as he ate. Stuff is what makes my quirk do its thing. Who else needs certain foods for their quirks? Ichako asked. I actually drink a lot of orange juice as fuel for my quirk, Tenya stated. I don't necessarily need it, but mushrooms are good. Kanoko spoke up for the first time in a few hours. I ate electricity earlier, Denki said. You did what now? Here you looked at the electric blonde. I put my phone charger in the wall and then my mouth, Denki explained. I can store up extra electricity like that. Is that what you were doing? Hanta asked. I thought you were just weird and had your phone in your mouth. I hate that that sounds like something I would do. The electric blonde laughed. Do it? Hanta egged him on. Your phone is too big for your mouth. Kyoka pointed at the device on the table. Bold of you to assume stupid has limits. Denki smirked. Yeah, us idiots know no limits, Hanta added firmly. I feel like getting dumb to achieve that power, Katsuki joked. Please don't, Tsu said from next to him. I enjoy having a smart person in the kitchen with me. Got it. The explosive blonde nodded. Can't let my yakitori be wasted. It's really good. Sayu gave him a smile. Honestly, your tempura kicks my yakitori's ass, so you win. I acknowledge defeat. Hey no, Tetsu said. This is a class decision. Too late, I choose to withdraw, Katsuki said. No, let a fair winner be placed, the frog girl said. This is pretty fair to me, the blonde shrugged. Chemistry, a certain pink girl muttered as she narrowed her eyes at the two. At that moment Izuku and Shoko both came down the stairs. Everyone saw them. Hey guys, Pony shouted a bit too loud. Where have you been? Talking, both of them said at almost the same time. Well, we kinda did most of the stuff already, Katsuki indicated to the plates of food. We were actually going to vote on the winner now, Momo said as she noticed how it looked like both of the teens had cried recently, as well as Izuku still not having washed his blood off of his face. She wanted to ask about the red eyes, but felt like it would be wrong to do in front of the whole class. You guys can grab a plate and join us, Sayu offered. We actually wanted to ask if it was alright if we go spar after we talk to a teacher, Shoko said as she looked at Tenya. The male class leader looked to his co-leader, who nodded. That's fine. Please return before curfew, you guys. Okay. Both of them nodded as they left. So are we gonna talk about those two being gone, returning at the same time, both standing close to each other, and just about everything that just happened? Hanta asked. I was right. Mina clapped happily. Chemistry. In the main building, Izuku and Shoko went to their classroom to see if Shota was still there. It was a long shot, but luckily for them he was literally right outside of the classroom talking to another staff member, the pro hero Midnight. Shoto, you're coming with us tonight, Nimuri said. We're gonna get you a date because you can't spend every day at home with your cats. I am fine like that. No? You need a date. Why? The man sighed. You're 30 and haven't been on a date since you were 25. By choice. Terrible choice. Shota saw two of his students out of the side of his eye and was glad for the interruption. Hello Todoroki and Midoriya. This isn't over, Nimuri said to Shota before she walked away. What do you two need? The man asked as he looked at two of his quieter students. Is there a chance Yue knows where my family is? Shoko asked her question. Shota gained a small look of confusion when she asked that. Did she not know where her family was? Did this have anything to do with the dilemma she seemed to have the other day? I wouldn't doubt it if we did. Can I know where my siblings are? I can talk to Nizu and find out where they are. The man nodded. I will let you know tomorrow before class if we do find out tonight. Thank you as always, sensei. The dual hair-colored girl replied. Is there anything else you need? Shota saw the look Izuku had. I don't trust someone, Izuku stated. The man raised an eyebrow to the teen. You don't trust someone? Someone was spying on us. The teen explained. I don't know exactly who, but someone is spying on either me or Todoroki. Shota knew Izuku wouldn't say that if it was just a teen being nosy. The boy legitimately thought someone was doing more than just being curious. I will look into it. Try not to give tells that you are aware of someone watching if you could, unless you can directly expose them. Both teens nodded. Is it okay if we use the gyms for a spar? Yes. I trust you two to follow the rules. Try to get back to the dorms before curfew. The two teens nodded again and left. Shota decided not make a stop at the principal's office before he went home. Shota entered the office to see Nezu still doing paperwork. The mouse-like principal looked up. Aizawa. This is a surprise. He didn't see the tired teacher of one much because the man didn't really interact with people willingly. I have two things, Shota said as he sat down. Midoriya is worried about him or Todoroki being spied on. It's him saying this, so I believe this should be taken more seriously than necessary. Nezu nodded. I was hoping he would be safe on school grounds, truth be told. If someone is spying on another here at a level that you suspect, it would be Midoriya that is targeted. I will definitely make sure this is handled to the best of our abilities. Shota gave a smile, which was something Nezu noted. What was the second thing? Todoroki says she wants to know where her siblings are. I don't know what her family situation is, but we should let her know where her siblings are. It shouldn't be too hard. The mouse nodded. But this does make me question her family situation. I believe we should look into that as well. I agree with that. Izuku opened the door to the large gym known as Gym Gamma. It was a large building that had just the one room that could fit all of the main building of UA in it. The lights were already on, and the two students saw three people already there. The three students looking like they had just finished their own training. The first older student to react to the two newcomers was a large muscular blonde guy with a rather cartoonish face with large blue eyes and an ever-present smile. Hello. He waved to them. It's rare to see two first-years training this early on in the year here. Your hair is pretty. Another one of the older students said as she ran a finger through Shoko's long white hair. This older student had periwinkle hair that was long enough to reach her knees and bright blue eyes. Do you dye it? She asked as she touched the red half of Shoko's hair. It's natural. The ice and fire girl replied, slightly confused. What brings you first years here? The first teen asked, looking at Izuku while trying to figure out why the younger boy looked familiar. The third older student wasn't speaking to them, mostly because he doesn't really like attention. He had dark blue messy hair, and was standing behind the blonde in a way that made it seem like he was hiding. We wanted to practice our quirks. The clear-blooded teen responded. That's great. The blonde's smile got bigger. It's nice to see others with drive. Are you two related? The blue-haired girl asked as she pointed at Izuku's green and white hair. No? Both of the younger students shook their heads. Coincidence? That's so cool. The older girl stated with her own smile. I'm Mirio Tagata. The blonde student held out his hand to Izuku. The clear-blooded teen didn't want to be rude, so he shook the hand. Izuku Midoriya. Your scarf is pretty, Midoriya. The blue-haired girl said as she put out her own hand. I'm Nijire Hato. The two upperclassmen looked at Shoko, who took that as the signal for her to introduce herself. Shoko Todoroki. This is Tamaki Amajiki. Mirio stepped aside to let the two younger teens see the said teen, who made a weak smile. May I ask why you seem familiar, Midoriya? I'm the clear-blooded boy, Izuku answered. Mirio's eyebrows rose. You're what? He asked out of confusion, like he didn't know what that meant at all. Mirio, he is Spitfire's son. The boy with multiple quirks. Tamaki explained. Mirio gained a look of intense concentration for a few seconds. Oh. Izuku was waiting for the teens to now try to give comfort or start treating him like everyone else did, like he was a ticking time bomb. Your father has some old gear here in the support department, you know. Mirio asked, which confused Izuku because that wasn't what he expected. Oh, is it the gauntlet thingy I saw earlier? Nijire asked. Yes. The clear-blooded teen nodded. I brought that in to get fixed. That's awesome. Mirio gave a thumbs up. Getting support gear early on can make you more of an expert with them. Why is your hair two different colors? Nijire asked both of them, clearly in her own conversation. My quirk. Shoko answered. How about you? Nijire looked at Izuku. Also my quirk. The boy answered. Eyes, we should let them get to their training. Tamaki stated. Right? Mirio nodded hard. We can't distract you from your hard work. The three upperclassmen began to leave. Nice meeting you two. Bye. The blue-haired girl waved. Now it was just Shoko and Izuku in the spacious gym. The clear-blooded teen looked to the girl next to him. Are you okay using it? She nodded. Like you said, it's not his, it's mine. She rolled up her left sleeve. I am worried though because I have no practice with it at all. He never forced you to use it at all. He would yell at me or say it's just me going through a rebellious phase. Shoko stated. I haven't used it in years. I only started using my flame breath a week ago. I'm sure you will do better than me. You should have resistance to your flames and you do have your ice also. Shoko hesitated to ignite her flames, still uneasy about using the flames. She looked at Izuku, and the teen had a supportive smile when he noticed how hesitant she was. The look helped and she ignited her flames for the first time in years, the flames coating her left hand and forearm. It was odd to have the flames there, they didn't burn her at all because she has a higher resistance to flames because of her quirk. She moved her hand around before holding it straight out away from her and Izuku. The flames increased and were sent out in a stream, much like when Izuku had used his father's glove during the battle trials. I don't know what to do now. The girl asked it like a question, hoping the other teen would have advice. Izuku gained a look of thought. If you can manipulate your ice in waves, couldn't you do that with your fire as well? To me it makes a little sense that you can. I can try. Before she could, Izuku popped a stray pole-like bone from his arm. Try coating this with the flames. Izuku handed the bone to her. It didn't decay rapidly once the boy let go of it, and Shoko noticed that. Why isn't it decaying like all the other bones? The girl asked as she held it. Every bone the boy had would always disintegrate into nothingness out of his reach. Why wasn't this? I can make them stay active longer if I focus more bone material to them. The clear-blooded teen explained. Doesn't that hurt? She didn't want him hurting himself at all, especially after knowing some of the truth of what he endured. Only a little bit. The boy answered. It's worth it to help you. Shoko smiled. She let her fire coat her forearm again, and moved the flames like she would with her ice, watching as the flames began to coat the bone. It moves just like the ice. I mean the way I make it move. Can you manipulate ice into objects? Like making a staff or baton of your own to fight with? If you can with ice, then maybe your flames too. Izuku offered the idea. The girl made a staff of ice form in her right hand. It wasn't smooth and perfect, but as a first try it was amazing enough. I can, but I should practice that more before I use it. She felt the bones start to burn away under her flames that were getting stronger as they stayed active. Shoko looked at the boy who has been immensely helpful to her. Isn't there something you could use help with? I feel like we shouldn't focus on me. I'm fine helping you. Izuku replied. My father's flames are okay, and all I need is to help my resistance to harming myself with it. Shoko still wanted to help Izuku in any way with his quirk. What about your bone layer? The one you keep underneath your skin? The green and white-haired teen raised an eyebrow. What about it? Your bones aren't as easy to burn, this one at least. She shook the half-burned one in her hand as she extinguished her flames. If the flames start in your throat, you could use that bone layer to manipulate where on you the flames come out. Izuku nodded. That's actually smart. The teen attempted it, making a thin pipe-like path of bones from his throat out through his shoulder. Using flame breath, they both saw the flames shoot out of the bone. This changes the way I can use the quirk. How strong is your telekinesis? I can lift up and move objects or just manipulate anything within 5 meters of me, but only one object at a time. Does it give you like a field of sense for objects around you? Or do you have to be looking at the object? It has to be within sight of my eyes. Moving my arms like I am moving the object actually helps. That would be helpful if you throw a bone object at someone. It would be unexpected and you can yank the object back to you. It could be. Izuku shuffled on his feet. Is your fighting style primarily you just sending ice attacks after ice attacks at people, but staying mostly in the same spot? Kinda. Shoko turned the slightest bit of red in embarrassment. Up until this class I never ran into anyone who could and did make that an issue for me. I can help you make another style for people who make your normal one difficult. It can incorporate making ice and fire attacks into it. I am actually decent at this one style I spent a little bit on. It is based around staying mobile and using my palms, elbows, knees and feet as points of striking. It is meant for being mobile, and I only glanced it for the most part. I think I actually know that, Izuku admitted. I learned it from Uncle Iwar. Izuku slid his feet out of his wooden sandals. I can help you get used to it. I'd like that. Shoko nodded as they began to go through the stances. A few hours later in the commons, Kyoka was tuning her own bass guitar in the commons. Katsuki was playing chess poorly against Sayu, who found it a little amusing how the blonde wasn't one for patience, but was trying just for the game. He was good enough at chess, but his impatience was costing him a little. Izuku was supposed to get his first lesson tonight, Kyoka said as she finished tuning her guitar. He seemed busy. Hanta tossed his ball to Tetsu. Yahem and Todoroki looked like they were talking about heavy stuff. Tageru flipped the page in his magazine. They said they wanted to spar, so maybe they talked about chemistry. Mina cut him off. Ashido, you don't know that. Sayu moved her knight to take one of Katsuki's rooks. Maybe they talked about fighting tips because they did go against each other today in the battle trials. Then decided to spar to test them. He wouldn't drop out of the cook-off for sparring tips. Hanta caught the ball that was tossed to him. If it concerns us, Izuku will say whatever it is. He doesn't seem to be one to hide things. Katsuki moved his bishop across the board and took Sayu's knight. Izuku and Shoko both came through the doors at that moment. Hello. Izuku greeted the class as they all saw the two. Hey, you're back. Tetsu missed catching the ball and had it smack his face, which made Hiryu and Pony next to him bust out laughing. Sorry I didn't do the cook-off, Izuku said as he went to the kitchen. He decided to make a late meal for him and Shoko, and decided to make cold soba since Shoko liked it. Hey, it's cool, man. Katsuki responded. Sue won, by the way. So what were you two doing? Mina asked as she took a seat at the counter separating the kitchen area from the rest of the commons. Sparring, Shoko said from her spot at a table close by. We had ideas to help each other, Izuku said as he grabbed the necessary parts of the soba. I meant before that, Mina replied. Before you both left the commons. We were talking, Shoko answered, which made the pink girl turn to Katsuki with a smug look. It was a good talk, I assume? Mina asked another question. Yes. Izuku and Shoko both nodded, which only made Mina give Katsuki another much more smug look. Midoriya, Todoroki. Tenya had come around the corner from the garden and saw the two. You are back already. We got tired. Izuku nodded. Training hard is good, but make sure to not overwork yourselves. Okay. Izuku responded while Shoko nodded. The covery girl knocked on Nezu's door and entered the quirked animal's office. She saw Shota there also, which was actually good because what she had to say affected one of his students. Hello Nezu, Azawa. The aged woman smiled. I am calling a specialist for little Midoriya. About his mind pains? Nezu asked. Yes. She is young, but from what I heard she has quite a useful quirk for this, and is nice enough that he shouldn't be uncomfortable. Who is this lady? Nezu asked. He wanted to do a checkup, which was putting his search for the Todoroki siblings on hold for just a bit. Her name is Fayumi Todoroki. The next morning the whole class had gathered downstairs for breakfast, Momo and Tenya preparing at this time. They both said the class can't just expect Sayu, Katsuki and Izuku to cook every time a meal was meant to be prepared. So how was practice last night? Ijiro asked Izuku from another table. The tables had shifted slightly, with Shoko and Kyoka taking Ijiro and Pony's spot, while those two sat at another table with Tetsu and Tageru. Ijiro was interested in the bass lessons he did do last night after everything else. Midoriya is actually not that bad, Kyoka answered. He picks things up easily. Soon we'll have a great band, Katsuki stated. Can I be a backup dancer? Denki joked. I got the legs for it. Bro, no you don't. Hanta made a face. Fucking noodle legs. Language, Momo lectured. Do you think if I say Japanese to her the next time she says that she'll throw something at me? Hanta asked Denki. I will throw an encyclopedia at you. Momo didn't miss a beat saying that. Dude, I wanna see that. Denki snorted. Her super move is eating a textbook at your face. Ijiro laughed. What's your super move? Pony asked. Does anyone actually have super moves yet? Mina asked. My dances. Izuku spoke up. That counts. Hiryu nodded. I send out a large heartbeat pulse. Kyoka added. It makes me dizzy. I have a move I call Hotzer Impact. Katsuki stated. It's highly destructive. My reciprocal burst is a super move. You what now? Here you asked. Reciprocal burst. I kick my engines into their highest gear and beyond that for a few seconds to take a huge burst of speed. A kick using that is really powerful. The male leader of the class talked about his move with pride. We should ask Izawa-sensei about making super moves, Pony said. Not even just solo ones. We could do duo moves. That sounds cool as hell. Tetsu grinned. All of our styles combined are deadly as hell. Class starts in 30. Maybe he is there early, Kusuki said. Wait, so we went from 20 minutes to half an hour early? Denki asked. Why not? Izawa-sensei is cool and he is a good teacher. Tetsu shrugged. Plus more time to train with some guidance. He might have something for us during homeroom today, Mina said. Well, either way, I already want to see if he is there for super moves. Kusuki got up. I am going too. Tenyu got up also. Izuku got up as well to follow them, and so did most of the class. Entering the classroom, the students all were surprised to see a giant yellow sleeping bag behind the desk, with their teacher in it. Izawa-sensei. Tenyu decided to be the one to speak. The man groaned to show he was awake but didn't open his eyes. It's still a bit till class starts, but we were wondering about super moves. Shoto opened his eyes and got up. Super moves. He liked his class just that much more for that. Super moves normally don't start until after the first semester, and first years rarely even think to ask about them, but this class wanted them on day 3. I can help with that. Awesome. Ijiro and Tetsu pumped their fists. Nice. Kusuki nodded. When will we be doing that? Here you asked. Well, today is the day you were all supposed to vote for a class rep and vice rep. But as a class you all already did that. Yaida and Yaoi Rosu. Hanta gave a chuckle. We kinda work ahead. Achako laughed. They can decide who is primary and vice reps. We have a lot more time this evening, so if you really want to work on this, I can make a call to Ectoplasm, so you have his clones to test them on. He will be helpful in this as well, since he helps a lot of students make super moves, but this will all happen after your normal classes. Shota began to pull out some papers. Everyone can sit down for now, but I need Todoroki and Midoriya to come to my desk. The two named teens approached his desk, and the man slid them both separate papers that had room numbers on them. Todoroki, we did do some research into what you requested. If you want it to be a surprise about who exactly, then they are there. One of my siblings. Shoko had a surprised look as she held the card that would act as a hall pass. Yes. Midoriya, recovery girl, asked for a specialist to help you with your mental problems. She said she believes your trauma has affected your head pains and the quirks. The specialist will be here in that room in a bit. I figured you would like to get the awkward meeting knocked out as soon as possible. I would like that. Izuku nodded as he held his own card, which was only a room away from Shoko's. Homeroom is still extended today, and you guys are a bit earlier than all the other classes, so you should have more than enough time for your own things. Shota finished. Thank you, Izawa-sensei. Shoko said with a bit of happiness as she walked out of the class. Izuku followed without saying anything. The two walked down the hall together, seeing as how they both were going the same way. Do you want it to be a particular sibling? The clear-blooded teen asked. I don't remember them as well, I can't pick one. I am just happy to get to see my family for the first time in years. Shoko had a small smile that wouldn't leave her face. How about you? You have a specialist to help with your head pains. It will be nice to not be afraid of it happening around people. Izuku replied. Or making you fall down the side of a building. Shoko said she really wasn't thrilled the night before when she learned properly what actually happened to him during the battle trials. I don't want to repeat that. It was unpleasant. They both arrived at the 2 rooms. Hope you do well with your sibling. Izuku entered his own waiting room. Shoko entered the room and saw her older sister, Fayumi Todoroki. The older woman smiling at her little sister. Fayumi had turquoise eyes, white, shoulder-length hair, flecked with a few noticeable traces of a crimson. She wore a white dress shirt with a plain grayish-peach-colored cardigan, along with navy blue jeans. She also had brown dress shoes and a pair of red-framed rectangular glasses. Fayumi didn't hesitate to hold her sister in a hug. She didn't speak for a second. Hey Shoko. Hi. Shoko was smiling, happy to see her older sister. She didn't know really what to do though and hugged back kind of awkwardly. How have you been? Fayumi separated from her sister to look at her. I have been better since I stopped living at home. Father is still bad? Fayumi asked with a sigh. She was hoping that man would get a change of heart, and so far he had not changed at all. The last time she saw him was a year before that. Endeavor is a jerk. Shoko repeated Izuku's words from the day before. I'm glad I am not there anymore. So he doesn't know I am here. Fayumi was completely aware of the ban Endeavor had about the siblings interacting with Shoko. However, she also didn't care because this was her little sister. No, I don't want him here anyways. Shoko asked a question she was curious about. Do you know where my big brother is? I do. He is actually here in Musatafu, but he is in law school. Why? He stated he wanted to know as much as he can to take down father. Fayumi, while not particularly enthused about Natsu's goal to take down their father, did understand why he had it. I'm sure that if he knew you were here he would drop everything to be here. Can I meet him too? I can ask him at any point, we stay in contact. What do you do? Shoko wanted to learn as much as she can about her older sister. I'm actually a therapist. My quirk is really helpful for helping others with minor emotional problems, so I became one. She didn't want to also admit that she did that because she was sure that Shoko would need one after Endeavor was exposed, and she didn't have to deal with his harsh ways anymore. What is your quirk? Shoko figured it would be something like ice or fire, since that was what their parents have. I can actually see people's memories and such. I call it empathy. I can feel their pain and emotions. It's like sharing their pain with them. After father discarded me saying my quirk was useless as a hero, I decided to ignore his words and help people as best I can. Are you Izuku's specialist? Shoko asked. It would make sense if she was. Fayumi was surprised that Shoko knew Midoriya and was on a first-name basis with him. I actually am. Do you know him? We're in the same class. He helped me with some issues yesterday. He is the reason I actually got to the point of wanting to meet my siblings. Shoko admitted. The older Todoroki was happy to hear that someone here had managed to get past Shoko's cold exterior. He sounds like a good friend. Fayumi was surprised to see a light blush on Shoko. He is nice. When Izuku entered his waiting room he saw a recovery girl sitting at the table. Hello, dearie. The aged doctor had a smile. How are you today? Okay. Izuku sat down on an opposite side of the table. I was the one who called a specialist for you, Midoriya. I felt that there was a link between your trauma and the head pains that we could investigate and neutralize. So it is emotion-based. Izuku didn't know if it was emotion-based because it kept affecting him physically. It might be possible. You do have a unique case with your blood, recovery girl stated. Who is the person? It's this sweet young lady named Fayumi Todoroki. Shoko's sister. Yes. Izuku realized that that means that Shoko being in the other room was her getting to see her older sister, which made him happy. Does she know about me? The recovery girl nodded. She does. She was eager to help. Okay. Izuku went to sitting there quietly, which didn't bother recovery girl. The woman checking her paperwork in silence, but keeping an eye on Izuku in case anything happened to him. After a while there was a knock at the door. You can come in. Recovery girl responded to the knock. The woman came in that looked to Izuku like she would be related to Shoko. The woman had white hair speckled with crimson and similar turquoise eyes. She immediately introduced herself to Izuku. Hello Midoriya, I am Fayumi Todoroki. Hello. Izuku responded. I'm here to see if my quirk could help you with your problem of your head pains, as well as anything else. Like a therapist. Like a therapist. Fayumi nodded with a reassuring smile as she sat down on the opposite side of the table from the clear-blooded teen. How does your quirk work? I have physical contact with you as well as eye contact. It lets me see memories and such, while sharing your pain. I can possibly find the source of your head pains. Wait, you'll feel my pain. Izuku actually scooted away because he didn't want that. I would feel it at a small level, about 2/3 of the real thing. No? Izuku shook his head hard. I don't want you to go through it. Fayumi frowned. Midoriya, it's okay. No? I don't want anyone else suffering. Midoriya, sometimes to help someone you have to understand their pain. I want to help you. I don't want to. Fayumi had some people who did act like this. They didn't want others to deal with their pain because it was too painful for them. I promise I will be okay. I want to help make sure people who had hardship can stand after it. Izuku wanted to argue hard still, but he did understand why she did what she did. Okay. If you want us to stop at any point we will. Fayumi stated. Why is Miss Recovery Girl here though? Izuku asked. I'm here as a safety precaution. The doctor answered. Because my quirk can take physical tolls on us both. Both Izuku panicked again. It will make us both go through it, but I will be experiencing everything more so than you. Fayumi said. The physical feelings will not be as close to the real ones as much as the emotional and mental feelings. Izuku had a heavily stressed look, like he really didn't want to do this at all. However, he shut down that growing feeling. He needed to do this. He needed to prove he was past what happened at that horrible place. We can cancel it if you don't want to do this, Midoriya. Fayumi offered. She didn't want Izuku to have a panic attack. I can do it, Izuku said with only 50% certainty that he could. Okay. We can stop at any moment, all you have to do is say something. Fayumi out her hand in Izuku's and looked into her eyes to activate her quirk. Her eyes began to glow a soft pink and Izuku's did as well. Fayumi was able to see his memories, starting from the first one he had onward. Dad, when I grow up I'm going to be an awesome hero like you. The small Izuku declared from his father's head as they walked through a park. Can't be as awesome as me. Hisashi chuckled. You did say my flame breath was the coolest thing ever. I'm going to get a quirk just as cool. Izuku shouted happily. I'm going to sneeze fire. Fayumi had a small smile as she felt the happiness Izuku had back then. She moved forward to another memory. Izuku fell out of a tree. Luckily it wasn't high enough to hurt when he fell off. Are you okay? The girl had run up to the green-haired boy who had fallen in the dirt. Izuku looked up at her and felt his breath leave again. He was young and didn't know much, but this girl was exactly that word his dad would use towards his mom all the time, and also being a 4-year-old, he still had no filter to stop him from saying everything in his mind. You're beautiful. The girl looked as confused as possible. What? Izuku rolled over into his stomach and stood up, eye level with the girl. Her dual-colored eyes were pretty, one was gray, and one was turquoise. Her hair was also 2 different colors, being white on the right half and red on the left side. I said you're beautiful. Sorry. The blush formed on her face. It's okay. So you are fine. Fayumi was actually surprised that Izuku and Shoko had such a chance meeting so long ago. She actually found their meeting a little adorable. Hisashi ruffled Izuku's hair. Told you that you would get something special. I'm going to be the best hero. Izuku jumped up happily. Wait till Kaken hears this. He would make his father so proud. Inko put Izuku down in the ground and pushed him towards the alley. Izu run. Inko shouted. Izuku got confused but quickly began to run through the alley, not questioning his mother's tone. He ran as hard as he could. He heard words behind him. You won't touch my baby, well I can still stand here. Inko shouted defiantly. You won't be alive when I get him. A deal voice said as Izuku got out of range. Izuku stopped down the alley, turning around to see if his mom had followed, and he wished he hadn't turned around. Seeing his mother fall to the ground made Izuku start to cry. His mom had to be okay, she had to be. He turned back and ran farther into the alleys. Get him? Izuku heard a voice shout from behind him. He still kept running, trying to take different paths to not be easily found. Sadly, a guard ran up on Izuku and chopped at the back of his neck, making the boy fall over. The man grabbed Izuku by his arm tightly, grabbing a walkie-talkie with the other. I have him, Commander. The guard spoke into the device. Izuku struggled as hard as he could. Let me go. The guard smacked Izuku over the head hard. Quiet you. Izuku started to cry as he still struggled. Quit struggling or I will give you something worse to cry over. Why were they doing this? Where was his dad? You shall not harm my golden piece. The gray-haired man ordered as he came into view. You are going to help me revolutionize the world as we know it, boy. The man gave Izuku a crazy grin through his shattered mask, before injecting Izuku with a serum to knock him out. Fayumi felt Izuku's fear from those moments. She had the urge to rush through the soul so she can find the root of his head pains. Izuku was now strapped to a chair. The room was looking mostly clean save for the visible stains of a clear liquid on the chair, and the clothes Izuku had, which were also a bit torn. Izuku wasn't moving against his restraints, not having any strength to fight. The door opened and he heard that voice that he hated so much. You are going to be the first subject I test on this specific matter, so bravo. Maruta stated as he cleaned off a syringe, entering the room with Izuku, but talking to whoever was in the viewing room he just left. I need protection of my golden egg, and if I did my tests right you shall be that protection, whether your mind accepts it or not. Maruta out the syringe in Izuku's arm and he felt anger, intense anger welling up at the man. However the boy didn't fight it, he didn't let the hatred show in any way. If he wanted to continue to live, despite the hell he was in, he would have to play along. Even though this man would never let Izuku die, he would bring him immense pain. The doctor removed the syringe that had Izuku's evil blood and walked back into the other room. A buzzing was heard and a guard, the one who had captured Izuku in the first place, entered the room. Begin the procedure. The evil doctor spoke again, and Izuku's guard began to torture the boy. Fayumi stopped for a second, breaking off the connection with Izuku. She had sweat on her face feeling the pain that Izuku had back then. Can we stop? Izuku breathed out while looking at the floor. He was afraid of her finding the one thing he had kept secret from everyone. He didn't even consider it as a possibility till she stopped their connection to take a breath. He was afraid of how she and everyone else would react if they found that out. Fayumi nodded as she wiped her brow, Izuku noticing how she now had a small cut on her neck, where he got the large one in the memory. if you want. You're hurt. She's fine. Recovery girl did her thing and used her quirk on Fayumi, healing the small cut she got. You got hurt because of. My quirk does that to me. Fayumi stopped Izuku so as to prevent him from trying to blame himself, something she had heard he would do. Feeling his memories also gave her a good insight of his person, and how he kept thinking it was all his fault. She really didn't like how he kept blaming himself, and from the notes she had gotten, as well as a personal conversation with Rumi for approval on this whole thing, knew he had trouble swaying from that idea. Even Shoto was aware and told her how the boy had that thought of his blood being cursed. As much as Fayumi disagreed with that idea, she at least understood where Izuku got that from. 10 years of wing with that evil man wrapped the boy. It was my memories though. I willingly used my quirk knowing the risks. Fayumi gave Izuku a reassuring smile. From what I have seen, you are too sweet to want to hurt someone. At least that's what Miss Usagiyama said. Izuku got a completely different expression at hearing his beloved caretaker's name. He lost the guilt complex and gift excited. You talked to Rumi. I did. It would seem wrong to talk to you without her input. Fayumi liked how Izuku had lit up at the rabbit-like woman's name. Did she want to say anything to me? She said you and her need to have a rematch of shogi because she has a winning strategy this time. Fayumi left out the part where Rumi was getting steamed up about how Izuku had beaten her non-stop for the past few months of shogi, after he learned it better from Shino. Oh? Izuku smiled as he remembered the one time Rumi played shogi with Shino, and ended up flipping the board and the table with it while cursing. She never did that with Izuku, but did get competitive with him over it. Monopoly was actually banned in his pseudo family, after Yuara pulled shady business on Tomoko and Ryuko kept making Rumi go to jail, and it ended in a fight, especially after Izuku came out of nowhere and won. They all really let that escalate too much. Would you like to continue the session, sweetie, or are you done for today? Recovery girl asked. Can we stop today? Pick up again tomorrow. Izuku figured he could deal with the thoughts later. He could tell Rumi before the next session. She deserved to know the most and should know first. Fayumi frowned for the first time, not liking the answer she was going to give, especially since Izuku was actually willing to continue with this soul, when it was obviously a hard thing to do. I'm sorry Midoriya, but I won't be in Japan until next Tuesday. I was requested in Canada for a few days to help some people there. She would gladly help everyone she could at ever my second if she could, but she couldn't be in multiple spots at once, and the group in Canada really needed help, and she did give them her word to go fly over to Toronto later that day. I understand. Izuku nodded. He knew he wasn't the only troubled person, but also didn't like that there were any troubled people. He wished that some people weren't such bad people. Was Shoko happy? Fayumi was surprised he brought up her younger sister, but also glad that he was looking out for her sister in any way at all. She was happy. She is getting to see her older brother tomorrow. Really? The clear-blooded teen asked, glad his friend was getting her family back. He was excited to meet her also. Fayumi remembered when she called Natsu to tell him just minutes ago with Shoko about if he was free that evening, and he sounded like he would have rushed down to UA at that very second if he wasn't about to take tests all day. Yuri, are you fine as well? Recovery girl spoke up to ask Izuku. She was worried about the recent digging in his head, setting off his head pains more frequently, which was bad, since they still haven't found the source properly. She did have her theories, but she also wanted them to make sure of every possibility, since Izuku was a very delicate situation. I'm okay. Izuku nodded. He didn't feel as bad from his memory digging anymore, since the topics of Rumi and Shoko were really good distractions. Is it okay if I go to class now? I don't want to miss anything. Sure. Both women nodded. We can continue next week, Izuku. Fayumi added. I am back Tuesday afternoon, so we can continue Wednesday if you like. That was enough time for Izuku to tell Rumi about the thing he was hiding, because part of him was too afraid to tell her, and he felt like it would take a few days of building up the nerve to even start speaking about it. When Izuku returned to class, everyone was there and spending the homeroom block talking about quirk combos they could do. All except Kiyotaka, who still didn't make himself part of the class, but at this point everyone had stopped trying to involve him, since he would be just the slightest bit rude about it. Hey Izuku. Katsuki greeted the clear-blooded teen as he sat down. Everything went well. For the most part. Hey, so how about as a super move we do this? Hanta began. Either Midoriya can straight eat a hard into Jiro or Tetsu at someone, or Uraraka removes their gravity, and I just swing them at whatever we are trying to hit. That sounds stupid and I love it. Tetsu had a smirk. It wasn't clear to me that my dream was to be a missile until this very moment. Ichiro stated. Wouldn't that, hurt your insides? Kyoka asked the two teens who had accepted becoming projectile weapons. When I harden, literally everything hardens in me. The red hat explained. Well, I don't become perfect steel inside, I do gain steel likeness inside my body. Tetsu added. So they'll be fine. Hanta nodded. We now have a team super move. Imagine if Uraraka adds the gravity and such at the last second. Kusuke said. That would make you guys probably hit like a brick. Especially if Midori is throwing them, with his monster strength they will really be missiles. I love it even more. Ichiro stated. We really need to test that like right now. Wait till after class. Shota yawned as he stood up. Homeroom is now over. We are going to start classes now. At lunch the students of Wano were still cooking up interesting combos, not for a second dropping the idea that had grown on the 19-person group. What did you coat my blades with acid? Tageru asked Mina. Wouldn't that burn you? The pink girl asked. Not if you make it something that would be at the solution of irritating to wounds. Momo pointed out. I could probably find something to have similar effects. It would definitely make any villains I caught not want to keep going if every cut to them has a lot of irritation following it. The insect-like teen stated. Hey Ida. Kusuke said. I throw you with a lot of momentum from my explosions, and you also use your reciprocal burst move and then use a kick. That would do a lot of damage. Tenya nodded while rubbing his chin. Yes. That would be a strong kick. We would have to aim really well with it because my engines have to cool down, and that would leave me a target. Well, we are getting to do it early because of Izuku sensei today. Tetsu stated. We can try out ideas today to see what would really work and work on that more. Mashirao added. Shoko looked at Izuku across the table from her. Can we try that thing with your bones again? The part where you put your fire over it. The clear-blooded teen asked. Shoko nodded. It is a combination of our powers. It is. Izuku nodded in agreement. Mina nodded while listening to them talk, knowing chemistry when she heard it. Hey Katsuki, want if you use an explosive to shoot one of my horns? Pony asked. That is one really sharp object to shoot with force like that. Katsuki stated. I like it. What if Ashido adds her acid to a horn of Tsunotori's? Tenya added. Getting pierced by one will be a painful hit, and the irritant level of the acid will be another level. Making Mina's acid at an irritant level is useful with a lot of us. Kyoka pointed out. I'm versatile. The pink girl grinned. Imagine if Yoi Rosu made a sword to give to Dark Shadow. Hanta stated. Or gun. Denki added. A shadow demon with a gun will that never not sound cool. Ichiro said. No. Hanta shook his head. That's awesome. Give the shadow a gun. Denki started to chant. Give the shadow a gun. No. Fumikage did not want to think of what Dark Shadow would do with a firearm. Give the shadow a gun. Both Hanta and Denki were chanting now. That's really unwise. Tenya stated. Let's not use guns. Tageru agreed. That is smart. Momo agreed as well. Pussies. Dark Shadow suddenly said. Damn, he called you out. Denki burst out laughing. Dark Shadow, please don't be rude. Fumikage was rubbing his temples. God, I love this class. Katsuki chuckled. Hello Nishida. Aizawa was actually in the staff lounge for once during lunch, instead of taking a nap in his classroom in his sleeping bag. Are you free this afternoon? Masakazu Nishida, better known as the pro-hero ectoplasm, looked up from his lunch in surprise. Shota actually was doing something besides sleeping this early in the year. What was in his sandwich? Even Hisashi and Imuri, the pro-heroes present Mick and Midnight respectively, looked up at their friend in surprise. Masakazu spoke after a second. I am free this afternoon. What do you need? My class wants to get started on super moves. Shota answered. Super moves? Nimuri raised her eyebrow. This little kiddies are getting started early. Why are you starting them in the first week? They asked me this morning about it. If they think they are ready, I believe they are. Oh, does Shota actually like his class for once? Nimuri teased. Yes. Shota answered flatly. He knew he had a reputation of being an unpleasant teacher, and before this class he had only liked 1 or 2 students total, one of which had proved how much he worked for his strength, and was currently considered the strongest in the school. However, this class, bar the one kid who wasn't one of the group and didn't share the class enthusiasm, was easily liked by the man. Wow. Hisashi commented. These kids sound exciting. They are pretty good kids during lessons. Masakazu stated. So Jim Gamma. Yes. Shota nodded. I have one other person to get involved in this. He went to go find the one student Nat Ue he liked and respected. It was now time for the very first super move training session for Class 1A, all of them in their gym clothes at Gym Gamma and ready to go. Shota finally walked into the gym followed by 2 people, Masakazu and one of the third-year students, the blonde one Izuku and Shoko had met the night before. Hello. Mirio waved happily to the class. What's up? Both Hanta and Denki greeted the blonde with equally high energy to his own. Class, this is Mirio Tagata, considered to be the top member of the Big Three, the three kids who are considered the strongest among the students here at UA, as well as strong enough to contend with some pro heroes. Wow, that's cool. Ichiro exclaimed. That's awesome. Tetsu agreed. What is your quirk? Ichako asked with interest. How about I show you guys? Mirio offered. Oh, coolest show. Tageru commented. By beating all 20 of you in a fight. Mirio added, but not in an arrogant way. All 20 of us. Katsuki snorted. PFFT okay. Yep. Mirio nodded with a happy smile. Mr. Ozawa wants me to show you all how much improvement he believes you guys can make by showing you the gap there is. I really want to see this gap. Tageru was definitely eager for this. Ain't no way you have let on Midoriya. Denki said. Dude's a beast. Midoriya? Mirio asked, remembering the name from the day before, right as he noticed the quiet boy. Oh, Midoriya. You're in this class, that is so cool. You guys know each other? Katsuki asked. When me and Shoko came here to spar we met him and two others. Izuku asked. Yep. Mirio nodded. They're Tamaki and Nichire. The other two people in the Big Three. It actually makes sense that two of the kids I met were in Mr. Ozawa's class. He did say you guys have drive. I think that is why he likes you so much. Shota actually looked embarrassed for the first time in a while, and Masakazu wished he had a camera to take a photo as evidence to show Nomuri and Hisashi, who he knew would pay good money for a photo of that. Well, let's not disappoint Sensei and take you down. Tageru exclaimed. Yay. Pony matched the insect-like teen's energy. Hell yeah, let's do this. Katsuki agreed. I like you guys. Mirio stated. 20 on 1. You all show good drive, so I will give it my all to respect you guys. Don't expect anything less from us. Ichiro grinned. Let's do this. Mirio announced the start of the seemingly one-sided match, before he dropped right through the floor, his clothes dropping to the ground not following him. What the hell? Tageru is the closest teen said in confusion. Element of surprise. Mirio suddenly popped up, buck naked, right behind Kiyotaka. Before the gas user could react, he got a heavy fist to the back of his head that knocked him out instantly. Hey, you're naked. Pony shouted while avoiding looking at Mirio's lower body. That's a drawback of my quirk. Mirio stated before he fell through the floor again. He punches hard if Akamitsu was knocked out that easily. Tenya stated. Keep on guard. Watch each other's backs. Momo added. Shota was proud that his kids thought quickly and efficiently. The blonde third-year student shoot out of the ground lightning quick and sent a hit at Mashirao, but was surprised to miss when Izuku, who was watching near his tailed classmate at that moment, yanked Mashirao away from the hit. Wow, you have reflexes. Mirio applauded Izuku. No one can easily outmove me. He is our powerhouse. Mina boasted. Interesting. Mirio said as he shoot down into the ground before quickly popping up and shooting a kick at Hanta's chest, sending the teen down under the older student's immense strength. Hanta. Denki exclaimed. Focus. Mirio tries to get Denki, but was surprised when Katsuki got his classmate out of the way. Oh. More reflexes. Just figured you'd go after the first distracted guy. Katsuki jumped at Mirio and sent 2 explosions out of his palms at point-blank range. Only to get surprised when Mirio gave no reaction, as well as gained no slight physical change from the blasts. Wow, those are cool. Mirio said excitedly right before he headbutted the explosive blonde and sent him to the ground, out cold. Well shit. Tetsu said. Do explosions do anything to you? They can. Mirio nodded as he fell through the ground again. What is his quirk? Kyoka asked, right before Mirio came up again and hit Kanoko with an uppercut, knocking her out as well. Damn, is everything a hit-one knockout with you? Denki asked. Have you seen his muscles? Mina pointed at the blonde who was seemingly untouchable. No way would it take more than 5 hits to knock out any of us, Pony agreed. Mirio dropped back into the ground. Watch out, Momo said. Mirio reappeared and knocked Tetsu and Ichiro's heads together. The two were using their quirks, so it wasn't an immediate knockout, but they were definitely thrown off. Get him? Denki shot an arc of electricity that should have hit Mirio, but the blonde dropped through the ground, instead making the electricity shock both Tetsu and Ichiro, enough to make them lose their quirk's effect. A third-year student took advantage of that moment, popped out of the ground to knock their heads together again, this time knocking them out. Oh come on. Denki sounded annoyed. Guys, I am sorry. Shota was watching with interest. He knew if any class of students currently at UA could figure out Mirio's quirk, it would be this class. Hell, he knew they would at least be able to be the first people in 2 years to actually get to land a hit on Mirio. Izuku felt his instincts telling him to move, and he jumped high into the air, narrowly dodging a quickly moving Mirio. Wow, you do have good instincts. Mirio had a grin as he still went through with the punch he was gonna hit Izuku with, it now going to Kyoka, knocking her out. Shoko sent out ice at Mirio and it went right through him, and he somehow shoot out from it with speed and landed a strike on Mashirao, knocking out the tailed teen. Even ice. Tageru exclaimed as he rushed Mirio, only for the blonde to drop into the ground. Izuku landed and realized what the older teen's quirk was. He could go through objects, the ground and Shoko's ice. He could ignore something like explosions like they weren't touching him. Because he had a quirk that made him intangible. The ability to not have a physical presence, which means nothing would touch him and instead go right through him. Guys. He can make himself intangible. Izuku shouted. Shota and Mirio both grinned, Izuku being the first person to actually call it before Mirio himself could say it. Yes. Mirio nodded as he slammed a fist into Tenyu's stomach and sent the teen into unconsciousness. He has to have a limit on how long he can be intangible then. Shoko stated. If he can go through the ground, that means oxygen is going through him and he can't breathe. Mirio's signature grin got bigger, these two were smart. We need to time him. Momo made his staff. Every 3 seconds. Pony said, having actually been counting. Everyone needs to attack at multiple angles at once themselves to be prepared. Tageru made more blades in his body. Now. Izuku made multiple blunt bones just be safe, as Mirio popped up and hit a Chaco in her gut, the girl's reaction time being off. Mirio was excited. This was the first group of people to guess his quirk and actually stay calm, despite a little panic. He could see why Shota liked them as much as he did. He himself personally liked the Midoriya kid. 2 more seconds. Momo stated. On time Mirio shot out of the ground, but at a new angle, right below Momo to knock her off her feet, before he gave her a punch to the gut and knocked her out. Damn. Denki said. Dude is seriously tough. Thank you. Mirio popped up behind him and chopped Denki's neck, knocking him out. Fuck. Tageru cursed at how easily Mirio was taking them out. He knew they were in for some work if this guy was the strongest at UA, but damn, he didn't think it was this much. That's not friendly language. Mirio went to hit Tageru and was excited to see the insect-like teen had excellent reflexes, bringing up his blades to slash at Mirio. However, the blades went through the blonde who hit Tageru in his stomach and knocked him out. He can make separate parts intangible. Izuku stated. He noticed that as when Tageru's blade should have caught Mirio's arm, but went through his arm to no other effect, while Mirio's fist had to be physical at that same time to hit Tageru. Correct. Mirio grinned. He definitely liked the kid who had dodged him perfectly now. The Midoriya kid definitely was smart. He shot out of the ground again, and hit both the Chaco and Hiryu in their guts at the same time, and knocked them both out. How is he shooting out of the ground like that though? Mina asked. The ground could be forcing him back up once he becomes solid under it. Fumikage offered while Dark Shadow was above him ready to strike. That would explain how he shoots out so fast. Pony agreed. Mirio shot out again, ready to hit Shoko, but to everyone's surprise he got hit. The 2 teachers were shocked as was the class when a blunt bone erupted from the ground with force and smacked Mirio in his stomach and sent him away from Shoko. The blonde upperclassman actually looked surprised himself, trying to figure out which one had bones to hit him with. Good job, Midori. Mina cheered. Mirio looked at Izuku, who had taken to being in a crouched position with his hands on the ground. The boy stood up and his palms were bloody and ripped open. You hit me. Mirio was really surprised. No one had managed to hit him in the past 2 years. I found your pattern. Izuku breathed heavily because forcing all of the bones underground to mold for that attack took a toll on his energy. You hit one of us in the middle before going at someone on the outside of our group. Shoko was next, so I got ready to attack at a speed you couldn't react to if you didn't see it immediately. Well, it certainly was a good hit. Mirio gave him a thumbs up. Keep it up. He dropped through the ground again. Damn, you think after the one hit he would let us stop? Pony's sweat dropped. You guys can do more. The intangible blonde came up and hit Pony for another one-hit knockout. Going to make you regret touching me. Mina prepared herself by coating herself with acid at a level of what would burn everyone else at a non-severe level. I am excited. Mirio liked how she thought. However, Hai made his fist intangible going through the acid and tangible afterwards to hit her for another knockout. Everyone is going down in one hit. Fumikage had a tense look. I have an idea. Izuku said, putting his plan into action. He watched Mirio drop through the ground. He knew Mirio would go at him if Izuku said that. He purposely made himself a target. Shoko set me on fire. Shoko did not want to set Izuku on fire, but knew that Izuku was smart enough to know what he was doing. Izuku could handle being set on fire, but it would make Mirio have to be precise with his strikes, and make a window Izuku could strike in. Shoko sent out a large torrent of flames at Izuku, setting the clear-blooded teen on fire. She was against it completely, but was amazed at how well he was handling it, being relatively calm like he had been burned multiple times before. That thought, however, made her frown. Mirio popped out of the ground at Izuku, having a slightly shocked look at the teen who had instantly turned with his heightened senses to face the older teen. The blonde saw Izuku's skin burning away and healing just as fast all over, and it actually threw him off, his strike not having as much push into it. Izuku made small bones instantly spike out at Mirio's fist, and cut the older teen's hand slightly, before hitting the blonde's tangible chest with force, sending him back under Izuku's own strength. Mirio skidded to a stop and still had a wide-eyed look at Izuku. Was this kid really willingly setting himself on fire? It was obviously hurting him, but he played it off well. Izuku chased after Mirio, not letting up his gained advantage. He made multiple blunt-fingered joints shoot at Mirio, which added with the fire Izuku was currently covered with, were definitely something the blonde didn't want. He timed his quirk to stay untouchable at just the right moments from Izuku's strikes, before getting a solid punch to Izuku's chest that sent him back towards Shoko. Shoko couldn't take it anymore, and sent a thin wave of ice at Izuku to extinguish the flames. Izuku wasn't knocked out because it would take a while to hit him with force that could knock him out. He got into a stance and ready to go back at Mirio. Okay, enough. Shota interrupted the match. He was calling it because the class could clearly get whatever message Mirio would give, and he did not want Izuku to do anything rash like making himself a living fireball again. I think you all would get the point now. Tagata, please put back on your clothes and Izuku go get spares to replace what you have burned. Izuku looked down to see that most of his clothes have pretty much burnt away from the fire. Luckily he still had the parts that covered the important parts. Okay. I will wake the others, and then we will go over the point of that. Minutes later the whole class was up and ready to continue their lessons, not deterred by the easy defeat some of them got. Most of them were actually amazed by Izuku's efforts, actually getting a few hits in on Mirio. Granted, they all also didn't like his idea to set himself on fire. Mirio faced the class after everyone got up and was informed of what happened. I hope you guys got some good messages from that. Yay. Katsuki nodded. We still have some ways to go before we are even halfway to the top. Your quirk is definitely strong. Tageru stated. It wasn't always like that. Mirio stated. It took practice. Izuku said. You don't just have physical objects go through you, but everything else as well. That means no light, sound or oxygen. Momo added. You would be blind while using it on your head. So you would have to have good instincts or prediction abilities off the charts to hit us as cleanly as you did. Ijiro made a grin. That would take a lot of work to get to the level of finesse you have. The message is for us to understand that our basic levels we have are not enough, and that we have to work our asses and quirks off with hard effort and drive to reach that next level, and be good heroes. Tetsu nodded. Because what is seen at the basic level of a quirk isn't everything that the quirk has to offer. It's a tool and extension of our body, and like most of our body parts, it has multiple ways to be utilized, so we have to be ready for any use. Ribbit. Sayu explained. Mirio looked at Shota. I see why you like them, Mr. Ozawa. They are really smart. Shota nodded. I believe they are the best the first years have to offer. The blonde permanently happy upperclassman nodded to the class. That is all true. All of you do have room to grow, but I think you guys are higher than you yourselves think. Last year I actually beat the class I was helping in less than 6 seconds because they didn't take it seriously. You guys actually broke the streak. I didn't knock out all of you, it took more than a few hits for some of you, and I actually got hit for the first time in 2 years. He held up his cut-up fist. I see this as proof that you guys are excellent heroes in the making. The class all smiled. Mirio had a really positive energy he gave off. Dude, your quirk is cool as hell. Hanta exclaimed. That is some next level stuff, and you taking on 20 of us like that. Well, you are gonna be a top tier man. You got that right. Ijiro nodded. Manly as hell. I like you guys. Mirio laughed. Most classes would shrug him off because he did come off as slightly cardiny, but these kids understood his hard work and the message he was giving them. We're cool like that. Pony stated. Anyways, that was to show you kids that even if you think you are at a decent level with your quirks, there is always room to grow. With these super moves you guys want to make, you should think of any angle that you could work your quirk into something effective, even if it is very situational. Today we will only do individual super moves so you guys can learn better what you can do with your quirks without any risk of harm. If you don't know what to do as a super move, we can work on improving your quirks themselves for better output. Got it? Half of the guys said excitedly, the whole class eager to get going. Tagata will still be here to offer his own advice if he is willing. I am willing. Mirio had a big grin. Anyone who wants to improve definitely should get the help they need. And Nishida will make clones for you guys to test your attacks against. Even if you break one I can make more. Masakazu stated. Let's get to work. Shota stated the beginning of their super move training. Mirio looked at Izuku, wondering what the clear-blooded teen was thinking. What's on your mind, Midoriya? The upperclassman asked. I don't know what to do. The emerald and white-haired teen answered. He felt embarrassed that everyone else was working hard to improve their quirks all over the large gym, but he was standing there confused. Well, how do your bones work? Mirio asked. Those bones intrigued Mirio if he was honest. The first attack to hit him in a long time. I don't want my bones. Izuku answered suddenly with a head shake. The blonde made a face. Okay. Otomaki said you have multiple quirks. I do. Can you combine them? Combine them? Izuku got a confused look. Why hasn't he thought of that before? Yay, like if you made two of them work in conjunction for a new style. Mirio got enthused about the idea. What quirks do you have? Izuku immediately knew what two quirks he would want to combine if any. My parents' quirks. Spitfire? Mirio asked. Yes. I have his flame breath and my mom's telekinesis. Izuku gained a smile as he thought of how he could combine the quirks. That can make pyrokinesis. Mirio liked how enthused Izuku got all of a sudden. Izuku used both quirks at the same time to see what would initially happen. The flames all came out, but with a slight green tint like his mother's telekinesis. He could feel the flames, like even at the edge of the flames, maybe he could move them. Izuku tried to move his flames that kept going, and watched the flames actually moved without him moving physically. Wow. Mirio had a grin, the flames looking amazing to him. Can you control exactly how they move? Izuku narrowed the cone of his flames, the wider it was the more straining it was for him. Soon it was all condensed flames inside of his telekinesis, which got thicker as it got a smaller area. It's like you have a long tongue of flames. Mirio commented. That made Izuku think of Tsuyu, and how she could use her long tongue effectively like a whip. Could he do that? Trying it he slashed the fiery whip like flames, and the two were shocked to see it actually cracked into the wall next to them, leaving scorch marks as it did. The attack made Izuku drop his flames completely. Wow, that is strong. The blonde upperclassman was glad that that wasn't what Izuku had hit him with earlier. Why did it hit like that? Izuku asked. Mirio made another face. You might be putting your strength into it, you have a good punch. I have a super strength quirk. The clear-blooded teen stated. Mirio lit up. That's it. You must be subconsciously adding your other quirks in for extra effect. Izuku blinked, that made sense. He never tried to use one singular quirk besides flame breath or telekinesis. He probably was actually cross-using quirks this whole time. How can I separate them? That way I don't cause too much destruction. Does each one give you a different feeling? Izuku felt his quirks, he never tried to do much past actually just feeling them before. He knew the quirks all had a slightly different feel to them. They do. If you could feel each individual one, why not just focus on the ones you want at that moment? Although I suggest not suppressing your healing quirk because that one seems very helpful. Okay. Izuku nodded as he focused on just 3 quirks, not letting any of the other ones slip through at that moment. He remade the flame-like whip and swung it again, hitting the wall and only scorching it. You have great control. Mirio commented. It seems like you can use that telekinesis guide your flames. Izuku nodded. If I add my bones I could make cartilage that can act as a shell to the flames that the telekinesis can move with good control. I bet if you kept the flames closed off to the outside with your bones but kept pouring flames, it could make a powerful burst attack when you hit something with them. Thank you, Tagata. Izuku was grateful for the help. No problem, Midoriya. The blonde gave a thumbs up. The class as a whole had improved greatly in even just the first training session they had. Tenya had improved his reciprocal burst, reaching a slightly faster 2 speed, and lowering the cooldown by a few seconds. Momo had created a move she had called Yoi Rose's Lucky Bag, which starts with her making a large cannon, which can launch a bag full of items, all of which are items that she can make with her quirk. Mina had made a move out of her action during the match against Mirio, dubbing the move Acid Armor. The move was a great deterrent to others to not physically touch her, since it can burn them, and it can dissolve any projectile can just be dissolved by the thick layer of acid she makes to cover herself with. Kanoko had asked to just physically train herself since she admitted she thought she was lacking a large amount of that skill. Takeru had offered to help her, since he already had his own move down. His super move was called Cutting Tornado, where he makes himself spin fast with multiple blades all over his body. Hiryu made a move he called Reverse Scales, where he makes his scales protrude outward instead of inward, so that their sharp ends may face out as spikes for offense, making his close combat almost as sharp as people like Izuku or Tageru. Saya made a move she dubbed camouflage, which wasn't offensive, but could have the way for any sort of action. Using her frog-like abilities, she could make her body match the temperature and color of her surroundings, in order to mask her presence, essentially being invisible. Ichako worked on her ability to move around easier when making her own gravity null, believing it could have the way for more options for her take down the road when making new techniques. Pony worked on improving the control of her horns, wanting to increase the max number of horns she could control at any given point. Both Tetsu and Ijiro took to sparring to make their similar quirks get more durable, essentially just trying to hit each other as hard as they could, and taking turns doing it. Kyoka worked in improving her heartbeat pulse, wanting to lower the cooldown, and the effect of dizziness she got from using it. Denki worked on increasing how much electricity he could discharge, wanting to be able to do more before the effects of momentarily frying his brain cells to the IQ of a bag of rocks kicked in. Hanta worked on his ability to throw objects with his tape, going just below his maximum lifting limit to increase it. Nashira worked on increasing his muscle mass, as well as the strength and durability of his tail, wanting to make sure it was good and ready, before he began to develop more advanced attacks. Fumikage actually got the idea to use Dark Shadow as a sort of armor, calling it Black Ink. The move negates Fumikage's close combat weaknesses, as Dark Shadow is incredibly strong and durable. Katsuki decided to work on his mobility over his super moves, since he already had Howitzer Impact and his AP shot attacks, which he said he wanted to leave as a cool surprise bro the others later. Kiyotaka actually didn't uninstall himself from the situation like everyone figured he would, and worked on his ability to use his gas, while not having equipment to give him fresh air. He had fallen asleep from the gas multiple times, but got up to repeat the process. Shoko make she called her flaming ice shots. She would put her hands together, igniting the fire of her left side, before shooting out a ball of ice that would end up coated in flames, as it flew with force where she aimed. The attack would hit like a brick from the ice, and then burn whatever was hit by the attack. After developing it, she also worked in improving the control of her fire. Izuku trained more with his new move, which he dubbed his Midoriya Flames, since it was made by the combination of his parents' quirks. He hadn't added in his bones yet because he wanted to make this a whole opposite of its own. Shoto was proud of each of his students, each one was smart and improved at a great pace. If he was to be honest, he would consider them to be prodigies. All of them had that talent to them to grow at a good pace while learning well and retaining everything. He had to admit that some of their moves were a sight to see, and he pitied any villains that would cross their paths when these kids gained more experience. Okay, that is it for today. The teacher of Wanna got the kids' attention. You all did great. As much as I know some of you want to keep going, it is late and you all need to eat. Return to the dorms and enjoy the rest of your night. Gotta teach. Ijiro gave a thumbs up from his spot on the ground, too tired to feel like standing. Tomorrow you will not have anything to do as hero training, and you will only be allowed to do light training. All Might has a special class this Friday that he wants you all ready for, so no overdoing anything tomorrow. Ah, cool. What is the class? Hiryu was leaning on the wall while catching his breath. All Might wants a surprise. Neat. All of you go rest. As much as I love your hard work, you have to actually take a minute to test and catch your breath. Shota began to walk away. Gonna nap for sure. Denki yawned. Today was a good day. Tenya nodded. For sure. Katsuki nodded. Imagine how it'll be when we get to start duo super moves. Oh, I can't wait for that. Hanta helped me up. Really wanna make Ijiro a human projectile. I really wanna be a human projectile. Ijiro laughed. I feel like the girls in this class will outlive the guys here. Kyoka stated. Ma'am, we are here for a fun time, not a long time. Denki said with a dramatic joking seriousness. Testify. Hanta grinned. Izuku and Shoko were near the back of the group, not kids, as they walked back to the dorms. Your super move is amazing. Izuku said to the girl next to him. Thank you. I like your Midoriya Flames. They have a good flow to them. Your flaming ice shots have good visuals as well. It feels awkward to keep my flames up like a pilot light without hitting my hand with the ice. I need to work on finding the good spot or make my flames not have to be as close to me at that level. Your fire control has improved a lot. I still burn the inside of my mouth. Your body doesn't naturally build resistance to all of your quirks' drawbacks. However, your super regeneration negates that to a point. It is kind of good to have that one. I have an idea for a super move we could do together. Shoko said with a slight red tint to her face. Not just the part where you pass me a bone to ignite, but I could also hand you ice to spike any bone weapons you make, since you can't manipulate them after they leave your body. That is smart. Your ice is really strong and would make any attack more powerful. Shoko turned redder and Kiyotaka noticed that, making sure he wasn't as obvious as his slip-up the day before. Hey, if you two fought, who would win? Katsuki asked Jiro and Tetsu. Me? Both guys said at the same time. They got a competitive look. No, me. Seems evenly matched to me. Mina stated. It'll be Jiro. Pony declared. Nah, Seal Boy is my vote. Tageru said his opinion. Who would win between me and Hanta? Denki asked. Zero. Half of the class said. Hey. Denki got an offended look. Someone say me. Kaminari, a wet paper bag would beat you. Kyoka laughed. That happened one time. Thus concludes today's chapter. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe with post notifications, so you'd be notified when the next chapter releases. Until next time.